He said he had weeks left, maybe days. I dropped everything, emptied my savings, and prepared to say goodbye. Then I found the cruise ticket. First class. But who is she? She did not just me. My dad, let's call him Jerry, is 57. We've never been super close, but not completely estranged either. We used to have an okay relationship, phone calls every few weeks, family holidays if I could make it. He's always been a bit of a talker. You know the type, tells long-winded stories about the good old days, always manages to turn every conversation into a guilt trip about how little I visit. But he's also the kind of guy who never seemed to get his life together. Quit jobs constantly. Had 4 girlfriends in the last decade, and every single one left because they couldn't handle his lifestyle, which is code for he drinks too much and expects women to cook and clean while he waxes poetic about a motorcycle he sold in '92. I've lived on my own since I was 19, worked 2 jobs through college, and now have a solid tech job. Nothing flashy, but stable. Point is, I'm not rich, but I'm not struggling either, which is probably where all this started. It began last November. I got a call from Jerry, and it was weird right from the jump. His voice was low, like unusually low and slow. He said he had some news and asked if I was sitting down. Yeah? I said, what's going on? Long pause. I have serious illness. Just like that. No lead up, no emotion, just flat. I went numb. I asked what kind. He said pancreatic. Stage 3, inoperable but treatable. Said he'd known for a couple of weeks, but hadn't wanted to worry me until he had a plan. I remember my throat went dry. I literally had to sit on the floor because my legs started shaking. He said, and I quote, don't freak out. I'm not gonna die tomorrow, but I need help. I asked what kind of help. He hesitated, classic Jerry, and then said the treatment wasn't fully covered and he was trying to raise some money for the copays because he didn't want to lose his apartment and fight serious illness at the same time. Now listen, I'm not made of money, but this is my dad, so I asked him how much he needed. He said $4,300. Very specific, almost too specific. I asked if he had any paperwork or anything from the hospital. He immediately got weird, said the clinic didn't give out paperwork unless requested and everything's online these days. He said he could probably get me something if I really needed it. That struck me as odd, but I didn't push. I sent the money in 2 chunks over 2 weeks. That should have been it. But of course, it wasn't. A few weeks later, right before Christmas, he calls again. Same low voice, same dramatic tone. He tells me the treatment is working, but barely. Says he might need to go out of state for a clinical trial. That it's a chance to extend his life another 5 to 10 years if it goes well. I asked again if he could send me the name of the trial. He dodged it, said it was all moving fast, and he'd been in contact with a coordinator who'd explain everything once it was confirmed. Then he asked me for another $2,000 for travel and lodging. At this point, I'm hesitant. It's not the money, it's the fact that every answer is slippery. But the guilt kicks in. I'm thinking, what if I don't help and he actually dies? What if this is my last chance to make peace with him? I send it. That was January. Then something odd happened in February. A cousin I hadn't spoken to in forever, Lauren, texts me out of the blue and says she ran into Jerry at the store and he looked great. Energetic. Happy. She even said she asked how he was feeling and he said, never better. I didn't tell her what he'd told me. I figured maybe he was just putting on a brave face. But something started gnawing at me. So I did a little digging. I googled the clinic he said he was going to. It does exist. But when I called their patient line and asked if they offered the trial Jerry mentioned, they had no idea what I was talking about. In fact, they said their center doesn't handle pancreatic cases, they refer those elsewhere. I tried to convince myself I must have misheard him, or he just used the wrong name. Then came the photos. And this is where things get real. My Aunt Linda, his sister, posted an album on Facebook titled Best Cruise Ever. You know where this is going. I wasn't friends with her on Facebook, but I guess she didn't have her album settings private because it popped up when I searched his name. There, right in the middle of the album, was Jerry, in a Hawaiian shirt, on the deck of a boat, with a margarita in one hand and a woman I didn't recognize in the other. Smiling. No oxygen tank. No sign of anything remotely sickly. The album was dated late January. As in, exactly when he said he was starting the clinical trial. I sat there staring at the screen, my face burning. Was it an old photo? I clicked through the album. There were pics of other people holding a newspaper with the January 2024 date. There was a shot of a tropical menu with the cruise date printed on it. This was not a memory lane post. This was real time. I felt sick. I wanted to scream or cry, but mostly I felt like a complete idiot. I'm gonna stop here for now because I'm still shaking even just typing this out. There's a lot more to this and it gets worse. Much worse. But I need a break. If anyone has been through something like this, someone you love completely manipulating you, I could really use advice on how to even start processing. Because right now I don't trust anyone. Not even myself. I left off with finding those photos. My dad, Jerry, partying it up on a cruise ship during the exact time he told me he was supposedly getting experimental treatment. That alone had me spiraling. But I tried so hard to rationalize. Maybe it was a short cruise, I thought. Maybe he's just trying to enjoy what little time he has left. I even considered asking him about it, point blank. But I didn't. Not yet, because deep down I already knew the answer. I just didn't want it spoken out loud. Instead, I did something dumb. I went detective mode. First, I saved the entire Facebook album. Every photo. Screenshots, just in case it went down. Then I called Jerry. Told him I wanted to come visit. He said, and I quote, now's not a good time. Chemo's really taken it out of me. Oh really, Jerry? You mean margarita-induced chemo? I asked asked him what hospital he was doing the trial through. He gave me a name, different from the original one he'd told me. It was one I'd already checked and confirmed doesn't run trials. I pretended to take it down like it was new info. Then he pivoted, said he didn't want to drag me down with his pain and that I should just remember him as strong. It was like a bad soap opera monologue. He even sniffled like he was about to cry. I didn't call him out. Not yet. I was building something. So then I reach out to my Aunt Linda. We haven't talked in a couple of years. There's no drama or anything. We just weren't close. I messaged her on Facebook and asked how she was doing, how the cruise was, just playing it cool. She replied within minutes, said it was amazing. Perfect weather, no COVID tests, free drinks, great shows. She said the whole family had a blast. Wait, the whole family? I asked who all went. Oh, just me, your dad, and his girlfriend Tanya. Excuse me, who? Apparently Tanya is someone he met through a friend at work, which is hilarious because my dad hasn't had a job in over a year. But according to Aunt Linda, he and Tanya had been dating for months, which would mean he met her while supposedly getting diagnosed and processing things. I asked Linda if she knew Jerry had serious illness. She replied with a single message. Serious illness? What are you talking about? That was it. That was the moment it all cracked wide open. I didn't answer her right away. Instead, I opened my notes app and just started writing everything down. November, Dad says he has serious illness, asks for $4,300. December, asks for $2,000 for clinical trial. January, cruise photos surface. February, cousin says he looks healthy. March, I confirm his trial clinic doesn't even treat his serious illness type. Now, Aunt confirms he never mentioned serious illness, but did mention a new girlfriend. And then, I remembered something. He had sent me a photo back in December, just one, to prove he was getting treatment. I went back and pulled it up. It was him, bald, sitting in what looked like a hospital chair, holding a cup. At the time, I'd been so freaked out I didn't look too closely. But now, with new eyes, it looked off. I reverse image searched it. Guys, I wish I was kidding. The photo came from a stock image site. It wasn't even him. He cropped it from a real photo of a man getting chemo, but it wasn't Jerry at all. Wrong build, wrong nose. He must have taken a selfie, then blurred and overlaid it to fake being in a hospital chair. It was subtle, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. I think I sat there for a full 5 minutes, just staring at my screen, whispering no way over and over again like a lunatic. Here's where things start escalating. So now I know with 100% certainty that he faked the whole thing, but I still haven't told him I know. Then I get a call from my mom. For context, my parents divorced when I was 14. Mom lives in Arizona, remarried, totally different life. She and Jerry haven't spoken in years, but she calls me randomly, sounding weirdly serious. I heard something, she says. I freeze. What do you mean? She says someone from Jerry's side of the family mentioned to her in passing that he looked really good for someone who's dying. She said it didn't sit right, so she figured she'd check in. I finally broke. I told her everything. The money, the fake photos, the cruise, the fake hospital, everything. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I don't want to say I told you so, but I always knew he was a performer. Turns out Jerry had pulled smaller scams before. Nothing major, just lies to get a few $100 here and there, mostly to cover gambling or credit card bills. My mom didn't think he'd go as far as faking serious illness though. So I asked her what I should do, and she says something that sticks with me. Whatever you do next, make sure it's for you, not him. I wish I could say I confronted him immediately. I didn't. I planned it, because if there's one thing Jerry loves more than being dramatic, it's being caught in public where he can't squirm away. So I set a trap, but that's going to need its own post. Me sitting on a pile of receipts, fake photos, cruise albums, and a mom who basically said, yeah, your dad's a liar. Deal with it. So I decided to confront him, but not on the phone. Not over text. No, that was too easy. Too reversible. And Jerry thrives in plausible deniability. I wanted something he couldn't weasel out of. A confrontation he couldn't rewrite. So I made a plan. An in-person ambush. Here's how it went down. My cousin Lauren, same one who casually mentioned he looked good for a sick guy, was planning a family barbecue. Casual, just cousins, a few aunts and uncles. She invited me weeks ago and I'd said maybe. Yeah, I was definitely going because I knew Jerry would show up. He loves that stuff. Free food, an audience, low stakes chaos. Perfect. I called Lauren a few days ahead and told her I'd be bringing a surprise guest. That's what I called it. She laughed, said bring whoever you want, and I left it at that. But the real surprise? I wasn't bringing a person. I was bringing proof. The confrontation. Barbecue day comes. I get there early. I'm nervous. Hands literally shaking. I've got a folder in my bag labeled taxes because I didn't want anyone to snoop and ask questions. Inside, screenshots of our text convos where he begs for money. Venmo receipts with his name. The fake hospital image. The cruise photos. Aunt Linda's messages saying he never mentioned serious illness. I made prints of everything. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to feel like I had armor. Jerry shows up like it's a birthday party. Wearing sunglasses, Hawaiian shirt, cargo shorts. Not a single sign of treatment. He hugs people, grabs a soda, starts telling some story about getting a deal on tires like he's the world's smoothest operator. Then he sees me, and I see it, the split-second flicker in his face. Surprise, then tension. He walks over with a big fake grin. Well, if it isn't my little Ivy, he says. I say, we need to talk. He chuckles. What, no hug for your sick old man? I don't respond. I unzip my bag and hand him the folder. His whole posture shifts. What's this? I say, your treatment plan, apparently. And then he flips through it. Right there. At first, fast, then slower. He stops at the stock photo. I say, you cropped that from Shutterstock. You didn't even try. There's silence. People nearby start noticing. Then he says, serious? You really went and hired a private investigator on your own father? What? This man just flipped the entire narrative on me. He starts loudly accusing me of invading his privacy. Says, I trusted you and you go digging through my life like I'm some kind of criminal? My cousin Lauren walks over. What's going on? Before I can answer, Jerry says, Ivy thinks I made up my illness. She's attacking me with screenshots like this is a courtroom. And then, he fake coughs. I swear on my life. He fake coughs like a bad high school play. And I snap. Are you serious right now? I yell. You're pretending to be sick at a barbecue? More people are looking now. My aunt literally puts down her hot dog. I pull out the cruise photos. Oh yeah? This is you 2 weeks into chemo, huh? I hold up the one where he's doing karaoke with a margarita in hand. And then he cracks. Not an apology. Not shame. He laughs. Not like, oops, I got caught. Laughter. No. It was like amused disbelief. Okay, he says, shrugging. You got me. Happy now? Happy? He looks around. Fine. You caught me. Big deal. I needed help and you had money. That's how family works sometimes. You could hear a pin drop. Then he adds, honestly, I thought you'd be proud of me. That's resourceful thinking, Ivy. Using what you've got to survive. What is wrong with this man? Then the twist. As I'm standing there, shell-shocked, my cousin Lauren pulls me aside. And she says, serious. Ivy, you're not the only one he told he had serious illness. Wait, he told my mom too? And Aunt Melissa. What? They didn't send him money, but he tried. Same exact story. Pancreatic serious illness. Experimental trial. Said he needed support. Told them not to tell anyone because it stressed him out. So he was running this scam on multiple people. I swear it felt like watching dominoes fall. By the end of the day, 3 other relatives had quietly admitted he'd dropped the I'm dying story on them too. But only I gave him money because I'd felt the most guilty. Because I'm the good one, the responsible one, the one with the job and the steady apartment and the bleeding heart. He knew exactly who to target. And now the rest of the family knew too. But here's the messed up part. He didn't care. Like zero shame. He stuck around, ate ribs, and tried to start a game of cornhole like nothing happened. I left without saying goodbye because I realized something right then, standing in that backyard, holding that cursed folder. You can't expose someone who's not even trying to hide. I left the barbecue thinking it was over. Done. Final nail in the coffin. I'd exposed him. People saw it. He admitted it. No more mystery. But the thing about narcissists like my dad, they don't retreat when they're caught. They rebuild. And what came next? It wasn't just insulting. It wasn't just manipulative. It was war. First, the damage control began. The very next day, I got a call from my aunt, not Linda, Aunt Melissa. She sounded awkward, like she didn't know if she should be mad at me or thank me. Your dad called me, she said. He said you misunderstood. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. He said what? He said you got confused, that he's not technically in treatment because he's trying an alternative route. Something holistic. Holistic treatment on a cruise ship. He was rewriting the story again. But this time, I wasn't playing along. I texted Melissa the screenshots again, and then I sent them to Aunt Linda, Lauren, and a few other people he'd tried this on. Within 48 hours, half the family stopped speaking to him. The other half, they believed him, said I was cruel for embarrassing a man with health struggle, and that even if he lied, he's still your father. But that wasn't the twist. The twist came a week later. My employer called me into HR. At first, I thought it was about a raise I'd applied for. I even straightened my blazer, but the HR rep, Anna, looked uncomfortable. She slid a piece of paper across the desk. Did you send this email? I looked down, and my blood ran cold. It was a screenshot of an email, supposedly from my work account, accusing my own company of toxic exploitation, nepotism, and emotional coercion. It was signed, Ivy Helenston, product analyst, former victim. But I never wrote it. Wait, I said, this isn't mine. I never sent this. She nodded. We know. It was spoofed. Someone had created a fake Gmail with a similar name and emailed our department head, posing as me. It was clearly fake, but they had my signature, my title, my phrasing. I felt like I'd been violated. Then Anna said, very gently, I think you should talk to someone outside of here. Maybe legal. And I knew this wasn't random. This had Jerry's fingerprints all over it. Why would he do this? Because when I exposed him at the barbecue, I took away his leverage. He couldn't guilt me. He couldn't scam me. He couldn't lie to the rest of the family anymore. So now, he wanted to ruin me, emotionally, socially, professionally. I left work early, got home, locked the door, and cried for the first time since this whole thing started. Not because I was scared, not because of the job, but because I realized this man, my father, wasn't just manipulative. He was malicious. I thought he'd lie to survive, but no, he lied to control. And when that stopped working, he tried to destroy. Then I made one mistake, called him, blocked number. He picked up with his usual smug hello, and I lost it. I told him I knew about the fake email. I told him I knew he'd tried to sabotage me. You know what he said? Maybe now you'll understand how it feels when someone turns your family against you. Excuse me? You humiliated me in front of everyone, he said, like I was some kind of con man. I gave you life, Ivy. You gave me shame. That's when I realized this wasn't revenge. It wasn't even about the money. This was narcissistic injury. I had embarrassed him in public. So now, he was going to teach me a lesson, bring me down to his level, make me suffer. But then Then came the smoking gun. I was done crying, done reacting. I went cold, and I started collecting evidence. I went back through every money transfer, every text, every email. I pulled credit card statements to confirm dates of the cruise. I made a timeline with receipts. Then I checked something I hadn't before. Venmo history, not mine, his. You can't see private payment, but if someone likes or comments on a public one, it shows up, and there it was. A Venmo comment from January, just 3 days after he said he was too weak to talk. His girlfriend Tanya had commented on a payment from him. Thanks for the spa day, babe, you're spoiling me. A public comment under a $250 transaction at a resort on an island. I screenshotted everything, and then purely on instinct I googled the resort name. They had a photo gallery on their site. One photo stopped me cold. It was Jerry, sitting in a beach chair. Are you kidding me? The date stamp on the image? January 22nd. That was the day he texted me that his chemo wasn't working. At that point, the final thread holding me together snapped. This wasn't just deception. It wasn't just betrayal. This was mockery. He didn't just fake serious illness. He didn't just take my money. He celebrated it. I'm not going to say what I did next. Not yet, because what happened after this? Well, let's just say it pushed this entire story into another dimension. I was done crying, done explaining, done defending myself to people who only saw Jerry's fake charm and not the nuclear level manipulation happening behind the scenes. He lied, he scammed, and then he tried to sabotage my career for exposing him. So I decided to do one last thing. I wasn't going to just take him down quietly. I was going to let him take himself down. First step, lawyer up. I booked a consultation with a local attorney who specialized in fraud and small claims cases. I laid it all out: texts, bank transfers, recorded calls, the fake illness claims, even the Venmo transactions and cruise photo evidence. I explained that while I wasn't planning to sue for the money, at least not yet, I did want to protect myself in case Jerry tried to retaliate again. The lawyer's face the entire time? Stone cold. No surprise. Just quiet nods and the occasional, he's done this before, hasn't he? I asked if it was worth pressing charges. She said maybe, but then she leaned forward and said something that planted the seed for what came next. If you want people to see what he really is, let them see it. You don't need to destroy him. Just shine a light. Boom. That was it. So I created a document, a tidy little PDF file. I called it Jerry's Journey. Inside, I laid out the full story, cold, factual, no drama. Timeline of his illness claim, dates and amounts of money sent, screenshots of his fake treatment texts, reverse image search of the photo he used, Facebook cruise photos with timestamps, Venmo transactions to Tanya, screenshot of him in the I beat serious illness shirt, quotes from family members he tried to manipulate. Every detail was bulletproof, objective, neat. And then I emailed it. Not to him, not to a blog, not to a lawyer. I sent it to the entire family group chat he was part of. Aunts, uncles, cousins, family friends, even his church email group which he used to send updates about his battle. No caption, no message, just, since there's been some confusion, I thought everyone should have the full story. Ivy. Fallout started immediately. 10 minutes after I hit send, I got a call from Aunt Linda. You published him, she said. This is brutal. But she wasn't mad. She was impressed, because Jerry had spent months, maybe years, crafting a version of himself that made people pity him. A sad, struggling, harmless man just trying to get by. Someone you couldn't stay mad at. But the version in my file? That was the real Jerry. Calculated, predatory, delusional. And now everyone saw it. And then came the unexpected call. Blocked number. I answered. Jerry. But this time, his voice was different. Not calm. Not smug. He was frantic. Ivy, he said. You went too far. You don't understand what you've done. You mean telling the truth? I asked. He went on this wild, rambling tangent about how people were distorting the story and how I was ruining his reputation and how Tanya left because she didn't want to be with a man who was at war with his own daughter. I was quiet until he said this. You always needed to feel like the smartest person in the room. You think that gives you the right to destroy your father. And I said, you destroyed yourself, Jerry. All I did was show them the receipts. He hung up, but the story wasn't done. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No greeting, no sign off, just, you'll regret this. Blood means more than pride. Who signs threats like a Hallmark card? I don't know for sure if it was him. Could have been one of his friends. But the handwriting looked familiar. I filed a police report just to be safe. Not because I thought he'd actually hurt me, but because people like Jerry don't usually get physical, they just try to scare you into silence. It didn't work. I was at work 2 weeks later, finally feeling normal again. And then I got a Slack message from one of the IT guys. Hey, just a heads up, someone tried to log into your email from a weird IP. Looks like Florida. Guess where Tanya's from? Yeah. Guess what Jerry claimed he never had access to? My email. Guess who might have used it to send that fake HR email that almost cost me my job? Bingo. Our company logs all attempts. The tech team flagged the activity and forwarded it to legal. They confirmed what I'd suspected all along. Jerry or someone working with Jerry had spoofed my email to try and sabotage me professionally. That was identity fraud, and now it's being investigated.